Elizabeth presented a picture of tranquility in mid-July, along with mild late winter weather that's not always associated with the friendly city. Port Elizabeth and its environs are also steeped in South African history, and the old and the new live side by side. Monuments that record South African history and stately old buildings that are part of the South African heritage blend in with a more modern and vibrant Port Elizabeth. The contrast between past and present was starkly highlighted when a band of modern gladiators in high-powered machinery descended on the historic town square in Port Elizabeth for the start of the Volkswagen Rally, round 5 of the Stanek National Rally Championship. The new face of South African rallying sees the championship bringing the sport to the people, and the crowds turned out in their droves while the stars signed autographs. The Volkswagen Rally heralded the start of the second half of the season, with 6-time South African champions Serge Damso and Vito Bonafide taking to the Eastern Cape a slender 21-point lead over reigning champions Jannie Habach and Douglas Judd from the Volkswagen camp. For both crews, it provided a pressure situation.
21-point lead in the championship, halfway stage. That's something you think of, or is this just another rally that you have to win?
Well, it's another rally you have to win, and I like to keep the championship points ahead anyway. That's our main this year. You know, it's very difficult to plan everything, but we'll soon see by tonight what's going to happen for the future rally.
The start of the Volkswagen Rally also presented a modern face with a variety of entertainment for competitors and rally enthusiasts. For the likes of former South African champion Hannes Grobler, it's merely a lull before the storm.
The pressure is on because everybody expects us to win again, you know. So we're going to try, and hopefully it will go well, but anything can happen in rallies. So we just hope for the best.
The grand old clock at the City Hall was pointing to 1:30 in the afternoon when the first car rolled down the ramp with the Works VW Golf crew of reigning South African champions Jan Habach and Douglas Judd appropriately in the #1 position on the road. Doing the honours by flagging the cars away was Port Elizabeth Mayor Ngceba Faku, with the Castrol Toyota team of Serge Damso and Vito Bonafide the second car away. Damso and Bonafide were followed by the Sasol Ford Escort of Paolo Piazzamuzzo and Nick Haddon, with crews heading for nearby Aldo Scribante for the first special stage on the Volkswagen Rally. With 6 special stages scheduled for day 1, the route called for a change of scenery after Aldo Scribante, with competitors heading for Kucha, the Zuurberg and Uitenhage before arriving back in Port Elizabeth in the early evening. In the longest drought in South African motorsport, Jan Habach and Douglas Judd were attempting to become the first Volkswagen crew to win the Volkswagen Rally. For 14 years, Volkswagen, with their headquarters in Uitenhage, were forced to watch rival manufacturers enter their own backyard and go home with the spoils. Volkswagen hopes were pinned firmly this year on Habach and Judd, with rally aficionados expecting the event to turn into a straight fight between the VW factory pair and the Damso-Bonafide combination in the Castrol Toyota Conquest. The rally buffs looked to be onto a good thing when the two crews posted identical times on the combined dirt and racetrack pipe opener at Aldo Scribante. It was early days yet, but Habach Judd and Damso Bonafide were 5 seconds quicker than anyone else through the stage, with early battle lines already drawn between the two crews. Third fastest through a stage which predictably drew a huge crowd were Paolo Piazzamuzzo and Nick Haddon in the Sasol Ford Escort. The driver is from Randburg, the navigator from Cape Town, and the pair were trying to get back on track, a season that had promised much, but which had so far not produced much in the way of results. Along with Piazzamuzzo and Haddon, the Natal combination of Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley were also trying to get their season back on an even keel. In their first season in the Premier A8 class for kit cars, the Team Total Toyota Conquest pair went into the Volkswagen Rally carrying 2 non-finishes in 3 events. When you're down, the motorsport gods sometimes put the boot in, and the world again came crashing down around Lawrence and Paisley. Ominous signs that one Toyota Conquest had given up the ghost, while another Toyota crew, Class A6 Championship leaders Jürgen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz in the Dunair car, went into battle. Fecken and Lukowitz started out 4th in the overall Drivers and Co-Drivers Championships with an 18-point deficit between themselves and Class A7 leaders Chart van der Walt and Cindy Harding in the Reeks Towing VW Golf. Matters also looked a little dicey for them in Special Stage 1, and there was confirmation that Lawrence and Paisley could catch an early flight back to Durban.
What's the problem?
We're not sure. Looks like maybe one of the buckets actually packed up.
and caused the cam to become solid, and then it broke off both the pulleys. And that's the end, I think.
Did this happen in the stage?
Yeah, we changed gear going out of this last bend to the flying finish, and as I was changing, it just went doom, and that was it.
The rally schedule had been carefully planned to avoid a clash with a local railway timetable, and this was one train Jannie Habach and Douglas Judd were happy to miss. Habach was forced to ease off the throttle a little while the last few carriages trundled off into the distance, and then it was a case of foot flat again on a 22-kilometre special stage that included some incredible high-speed sections. Habach and Judd managed to pull out a 2-second gap over Serge Damso and Vito Bonafide, and Paolo Piazzamuso and Nick Haddon only 9 seconds slower. Sophisticated electronic timing equipment on board the car later revealed that the Sasol Ford Escort reached a maximum speed of 201 kilometers an hour on one of the faster sections. There was a little hiccup for Piazzamuso and Haddon with an overshoot, but behind them there was an even bigger hiccup for Hannes Grobler and Dave McGregor in the Bridgestone Nissan Sentra. After 3 wins on the trot in the Group N category, the law of averages caught up with Grobler and McGregor, with the Nissan slowly coasting to a halt with a fuel pump problem that proved to be terminal. The dreaded rally sounds of silence, with Grobler and McGregor also headed for an early flight home. Bearing down on them were Art Group N category rivals Cliff Blackman and Johan Claassen in the Team Total Nissan Sentra, who roared past the stranded Grobler and McGregor to take the Group N lead. It was all happening in the standard car category, with another pair of Group N frontrunners also in trouble. Diffie Moreira and Donny DeVol in the Tony's Radiators Toyota Corolla picked up a puncture which led to a broken wheel rim. That cost the K-Pair 7 minutes, and they lost the Class N2 lead to Dean Saunders and Graham Hooper in the Team Total Toyota Conquest. The picturesque Zürich and a 48-kilometre special stage that was to have a marked effect on the Volkswagen Rally was next on the list. Rally leaders Jan Habach and Douglas Judd sailed through the stage without any problems, but behind them, Serge Damso and Vito Bonafide were struggling in a Castrol Toyota Conquest reduced to 3 wheels. The Toyota lost the right rear wheel early in the stage after heavy contact with a rock that was to cost the former champions 10 minutes and effectively put them out of the running. The incident also compounded on other competitors who struggled to get past the ailing Castrol Toyota Conquest, among them Piazzamuso and Haddon in the Sasol Ford Escort, the Dunair Toyota crew of Fecken and Lukowitz, and Van der Walt and Harding in the Reeks Towing VW Golf, who all lost time to Habach and Judd. An encounter with a small herd of cattle did nothing to help the Van der Walt-Harding cause. Pretoria crew Barry Grobbelaar and Mike Burrows in the Team Total VW Golf were also hit by the Damso Bonafide misfortune, but where some suffered, others prospered, and ironically, one of them was Damso's son, Jean-Pierre. The younger Damso and Pierre Aris, along with local crew Keith Coleman and Uwe Koch, had clear runs through stage 2 and made up wads of time on cars ahead of them. Cliff Blackman and Johan Claassen were well in charge of the Group N category after the demise of Grobler and McGregor. Behind the Italians, Diffie Moreira and Donny DeVol were struggling to make up time after their special stage 2 woes, and Dean Saunders and Graham Hooper had moved into the top 10 and were running at the front of Class N2 in the Team Total Toyota Conquest. The atmosphere at the service area at the end of Special Stage 3 was full of tension. While technical crews went about their work, there were some disgruntled drivers and co-drivers who were not too well disposed towards Damso and Bonafide.
Carlo, how's it going for you?
Now, this stage was a bit disappointing for us. We really went in maximum attack, and unfortunately Serge hit a bank and took his right rear wheel off. The result of that is that we had to drive behind him for 15 kilometers in the dust. And on top of that, the sun was setting, so we could see next to nothing. We had to travel in first and second gear for a long time. So the result of that was that we dropped a minute and a half to Jannie, which we thought we could make up some time on him there.
There was no disguising how Cindy Harding felt about matters, with Chart van der Walt also feeling a little hard done by.
I had my lights on and he just didn't move over or just slack off a little bit. So we've lost really a lot of time now. And we had a clean and clear stage up to there, so we were expecting to have a good position for tonight, but now with this, I don't know where we are.
The first of the night stages was a spectator affair through the streets of Uitenhage, the home of Volkswagen. Much to the delight of the huge crowd of locals, VW factory pair Jannie Habach and Douglas Judd were now around 2 minutes clear of the rest of the pack. Hopes that after 14 years of trying, a Volkswagen team would finally win their own rally were starting to take shape in the VW camp. The Damso Bonafide Castrol Toyota Conquest was again sporting a full complement of wheels, but the pair were down to 16th place overall, and second place was now held by Paolo Piazzamuso and Nick Haddon in the Sasol Ford Escort. Piazzamuso revels in tarmac spectator stages, and in setting the fastest time pulled back 4 seconds on the Volkswagen crew. Chart van der Walt and Sidney Harding had moved down the pecking order, while Craig Trott and Brian Duncan had moved up the leaderboard in another team total entry. The Italians Cliff Blackman and Johan Klaassen were still firmly in control of the Group N category, and Class N3, with Diffie Moreira and Donny Duval still trying to make up time. Although now restored to 4 wheels, the Damso Bonafide car was carrying battle scars, with technicians still repairing damage from the Stage 3 incident that had caused so much drama.
And, the sun was quite low down by that time, and we came over a blind rise, and I just hit a rock with the back wheel and just took the wheel off. So we had 40 k's or 30 odd k's to drive on 3 wheels.
The final special stage of the day was another spectator-oriented affair in the Port Elizabeth Industrial and Central Business District. Jan Habach and Doug Judd were still having a trouble-free run, and if you keep an eye on the center of your screen here, you'll see a digital display that keeps Habach informed of which gear he's using. There are no such sophisticated gadgets on the Dunair Toyota Conquest, but Jürgen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz were up to 4th place and running at the front of Class A6. After almost slipping out of the top 10, Chart van der Walt and Sidney Harding were fighting their way back up the leaderboard in the Reeks towing VW Golf, but still trailed Class A7 leaders Keith Coleman and Uwe Koch. The local crew had slipped quietly and unobtrusively into 3rd place overall in another VW Golf. In the Group N category, team total pair Cliff Blackman and Johan Klaassen were still firmly in control in the Nissan Sentra. Cape crew Diffie Moreira and Donny Duval had lost more ground, while Port Elizabeth driver Gijs Klein and Carolyn Simmer were making steady progress in the team total VW Golf. At the overnight hold, Habach and Judd were a minute and 50 seconds clear of Piazzamuso and Haddon, with Coleman Koch a surprise package in 3rd place. After a day of drama, Blackman and Klaassen and Saunders and Hooper were the 2 Group N representatives in the top 10. But Jan Habach was understandably happy with the way that day 1 had panned out.
Well, so far, we've had virtually no problems at all. We had a very good stage on the 48-kilometer stage. The tyres lasted up until the last 5 kilometers, and it went absolutely 100%. And yeah, we're happy with the lead that we have. Of course, now we've got to keep the concentration for tomorrow, and that's a bit of a mission as well. So we'll try hard for tomorrow.
For local traffic cop Keith Coleman, it had also been a highly productive day.
The long stage, I think Charlton got into the dust, and I think that's what's given us a very good time there. I think tomorrow will be a different thing altogether. The cars behaved very good. Otherwise, we've had a good event.
The Volkswagen Rally restarted in Uitenhage, and before Day 2's proceedings got underway, crews found time to discuss some of the finer points of Day 1 action. It was all very relaxed, with a smiling Jan Habach and Douglas Judd again first off the start ramp, and carrying with them Volkswagen hopes of a maiden VW win on home territory. With Uitenhage Mayor Councillor Gawe doing the honours at the start ramp, Paolo Piazzamuso and Nick Haddon with the second car away in the Sasol Ford Escort, with a 1 minute and 50-second deficit to try to make up on Habach and Judd. Only 2 seconds separated Keith Coleman and Uwe Koch and the Dunair Toyota pair of Jürgen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz. With 8 special stages, including a sortie in the Longmoor Forests, the schedule promised to be a highly interesting finale to round 5 of the Stanek National Rally Championship. Day 2 started with an all-tarmac stage at Willow Dam on the fringes of Uitenhage, with no one expecting any fireworks from overnight leaders Jan Habach and Douglas Judd. With a 1 minute and 50-second advantage over Paolo Piazzamuso and Nick Haddon, the factory VW Golf crew could afford to control the pace from the front. It was a happy position in which to be in, and the onus was on Piazzamuso and Haddon to force the pace. The day didn't start too happily for Piazzamuso and Haddon, and a few problems with the route schedule saw the pair drop another minute on Habach and Judd who, without really trying, now found themselves in an even stronger position. The day also started off badly for Keith Coleman and Uwe Koch. A gearbox change before the restart saw them pick up a 2-minute and 10-second penalty for lateness, which immediately dropped them out of the top 5 and gave third place to Jürgen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz in the Dunne Toyota Conquest. Jean-Pierre Damso and Pierre Aris moved from 5th to 4th in the team total Toyota Conquest, and Chart van der Velde and Cindy Harding now found themselves in the lead in Class A7 in the Reeks towing VW Golf, and only 24 seconds behind the younger Damso and Aris. Damso Senior and Bonafide was 16th overall overnight, and for the Castrol Toyota factory pair, the target was to salvage what championship points they could from the event. Out in the forests, early mist, a rising sun and dust provided for tricky conditions. Paolo Piazzamuso and Nick Haddon could not afford to drop more time to leaders Jan Habach and Doug Judd, who had the advantage of being first on the road. That meant no dust, and the Sasol Ford Escort pair were finding it hard going into the variable visibility. Cliff Blackman and Johan Klaassen were under a little pressure from Dean Saunders and Graham Hooper in the Group N category, and race cam action here from the Team Total Nissan Sentra amply illustrates the problems facing crews in the early forest special stages. A series of niggling problems were turning it into a tricky event for Class A7 pair Barry Krobbelaar and Mike Burrows. But Team Total teammates Dean Saunders and Graham Hooper were enjoying a return to form and still led Class N2. Another steady, if unspectacular, drive had quietly moved a third Team Total crew, Craig Trott and Brian Duncan, into the top 10. And for Pierre Huersen and Eugene Blanche, their immediate objective was to move into a top 10 position. The Group N category had developed into a fight between Blackman and Klaassen, Saunders and Hooper, and local driver Gijs Klein and Carolyn Simmer, who was slowly moving towards a possible top 10 finish in yet another Team Total entry. Richard Bem and Thilo van Vestenhagen were lying third in Class N2 in the tiny Palbin Opel Corsa, with motoring journalist Dion Schoeman and Jan Syme running at the front of Class S20 in the Castrol Toyota Hilux. While everyone else was going about their business, the big drama at the end of Stage 8 was the demise of Paolo Piazzamuso and Nick Haddon in the Sasol Ford Escort.
It was unfortunate for us. 4Ks from the end of stage, there was a tricky left-right. We put the wheel in the hole to keep it in the road, and the control arm broke. It's a bit unfortunate. We had to reverse out the stage, and that's what really lost us the biggest amount of time.
The loss of the Sasol Ford Escort now turned attention to the scramble for the minor placings behind leaders Habach and Judd.
No, so far it's going all right. We lost a bit of time here because we got stuck in some dust. I don't know, someone had a problem. So we lost about 16 seconds on Jürgen there. So now we'll have to work on it in this stage.
With wear and tear on machinery now a factor, service crews were moving into overdrive, and none had worked harder than Barry Krobbelaar's team.
We had a very rough day yesterday. I think almost everything that went wrong, but we managed to fix a lot of it last night, and it's going well now. The clutch is slipping a little bit at the moment, but we hope it's going to last till the end of the rally.
Matters on the Volkswagen Rally were looking brighter and brighter for VW Golf Works crew Jan Habach and Douglas Judd. Going into special stage 9, they now had a lead of around 8 minutes over Jürgen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz, and barring the unforeseen, a second win of the season looked to be in the bag. From a championship point of view, it was equally significant, with the reigning champions set to make huge inroads into the 21-point lead that Serge Damso and Vito Bonafide held going into the event. After the early setback of that hefty time penalty, Keith Coleman and Uwe Koch were on the comeback trail. The Eastern Cape pair were still second on the road ahead of Jürgen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz, who were now under a little pressure from Chart van der Velde and Cindy Harding. Fourth on the road was Jean-Pierre Damso and Pierre Aris, but the Team Total pair had dropped a place on the timesheets, with van der Velde and Harding now third overall and well in charge of Class A7. Terrific race cam action in the forest from the Van der Velde Harding car, with the pair set for a 5th class win this season and intent on keeping their championship hopes alive. Behind the Reeks towing Golf, a fired-up Serge Damso and Vito Bonafide were on a charge that had taken the Castrol Toyota Conquest into the top 10. The best the 6-time champions could hope for was to restrict to the absolute minimum the number of points rally leaders Habach and Judd would gain from victory, and the factory Toyota pair were on a mission. Up at the service point, there was the first hint of problems for Group N leaders Cliff Blackman and Johan Klaassen. A broken headlight was no problem at all, but a damaged exhaust was a little more worrying.
I think at the moment we are managing to stay ahead of him. So as long as we can just do that for the rest of the rally, then contain our Group N lead.
The Dunair service crew were busy preparing tyres for Jürgen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz, but were soon to be faced with more serious problems at the end of Special Stage 10. A further worry for Group N leaders Cliff Blackman and Johan Klaassen was a fuel pump problem, and in the back of their minds was the early demise of the Krobler-McGregor Nissan Sentra with similar problems. Barry Krobler and Mike Burrows appeared to have solved all their niggles, but Class N2 leaders Dean Saunders and Graham Hooper were worried about the handling of the Team Total Toyota Conquest. Craig Trott and Brian Duncan were still holding down a place in the top 10, with Gijs Klein and Carolyn Simmer going along steadily in the Team Total VW Golf, although local man Klein was complaining that the car was down on power. Klein and Simmer were now embroiled in a battle with the VW Golf of Cape crew Pierre Hussen and Eugene Blanche, with only seconds separating the pair. Richard Bem and Thilo van Westenhagen were battling to make progress in the Palvin Opel Corsa, and there were problems for local crew Dolf Coetzee and Eddie van der Walt in an aging Toyota Conquest. A flat wheel in a special stage was frustrating for Coetzee and van der Walt, but that was nothing compared to the drama at the service area at the end of Stage 10, where Jürgen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz arrived on 3 wheels in the Dunair Toyota Conquest.
The rear was damaged out in the open section towards this passage control. Surge was going back up and we were coming down. In Chart's dust, he just couldn't see me.
So that damaged the back of the car?
Yeah, he took my wheel off and his front wheel is also damaged.
Not an event Serge Damso and Vito Bonafide will want to remember, with the pair on their way back to the end of Stage 10 to query a time with marshals when they collided with the Dunair car. Fecken and Lukowitz lost 7 minutes in Stage 10 via an off-road excursion, and while everyone around them was committing Harry-Kiri, Jan Habach and Douglas Judd were strolling towards victory. The factory VW Golf now led by nearly 9 minutes from Chuck van der Walt and Cindy Harding, with Habach and Judd not in any hurry to commit any act of foolishness, like driving off the side of a mountain. That would deprive Volkswagen of a win they so desperately wanted. But spare a thought for Fecken and Lukowitz. Great work by service crew got them going again, but from a fairly safe second, a top 10 finish now looked dicey. On the other side of the coin, Chart van der Walt and Cindy Harding were starting to smell roses. The Reeks towing VW Golf now in second place with around a minute in hand over Jean-Pierre Damso and Pierre Aries. A great performance had taken Group N leaders Cliff Blackman and Johan Klaassen into 6th overall in the Team Total Nissan Sentra, while further back in the field there were some tremendous late battles developing. Kate Peck, Kobus Irdas and Derek Jacobs were only seconds ahead of the Dolf Coetzee Eddie van der Walt Toyota Conquest, but Special Stage 11 was to see the end of Michael and Rosenta Weingaard, with their Opel Kadett breaking a steering control arm. Veteran Spotty Woodhead, a former South African Navigators champion, is something of an institution in South African rallying, and along with co-driver Marius Swart was battling to hold off Diffie Moreira and Donny Duval. John Bruin and Terry Porter had taken their Opel Kadett up to 4th in Class A7, with Damso and Bonafide in the unaccustomed position of being in among the midfield runners. The factory Toyota Conquest crew were still trying to salvage points and were once again back in the top 10. Rocky Reinecker and Andre Pfeiffer were sandwiched between 2 Group N crews in the Class A7 VW Golf, with the Moreira Duval Toyota Corolla now held together by all sorts of bits and pieces. Down in Class N1, Rodney Fasaki and Chris Olsen finally got the better of a running battle with championship leaders Alan Worms and Ashley Herricker. A little drama was not exclusive to the higher classes, and when Fasaki and Olsen were later excluded from the results for a technical infringement, veteran Wiley Harrington and Neil Faree took over leadership of Class N1 in the Nissan Sentra. Cindy Harding, now in a better frame of mind than at the end of Stage 3, pointed out that the Volkswagen Rally had not lacked for incident.
It's been a very tough, very dramatic event. There's been all sorts of things that have happened. But yeah, we're here. We're fortunate. We've had our dramas. We've had a puncture, which we thought was going to put us far back, but we managed only to lose 30 seconds on that stage. Everybody else also had drama. There was accidents on open sections.
All that was now needed was for Yanni Habach and Douglas Judd to put the finishing touches to an historic win for the factory VW Golf crew and move to within 1 point of Damso and Bonafide in the championship. A Volkswagen team had finally won the Volkswagen Rally, with a bonus by way of second place for Chad van der Walt and Cindy Harding. After a long drought, the Volkswagen Cup runneth over. A gutsy performance brought Jean-Pierre Damso and Pierre Aries third place in the team total Toyota Conquest, with young Damso upstaging dad Serge, who finally rescued 7th place. The overall win in Class A8 to Habach and Judd, with Classes A7 and A6 going to Van der Walt and Harding and Damso and Aries. The Group N win in Class N3 went to Blackman and Klaassen, Class N2 to Saunders and Hooper, and Class N1 to Harrington and Furry. But it was Volkswagen's day.
Yeah, you know, Volkswagen's been trying for many years to win their own event, and I think they've worked very hard in getting the car, in the preparation of the car, and I think they are very pleased with the result.
After a string of second places, Champagne 2 for delighted first-time Group N winners Cliff Blackman and Johan Klaassen in the team total Nissan Sentra.
Taken 5 national rallies this year. Finally made it. Unfortunate because of Hannes' problem, but the way rallying is, it's really hard and then it's easy and then you think you've got it all together and then it falls to bits. But yeah, we made it.
Volkswagen also took the Manufacturers Award, but consolation for Toyota, who still lead the Manufacturers Championship by more than 150 points.